Hello and welcome to another episode of Bhavya's Unsolicited Opinion. Today's juicy topic of conversation is dating, and I assure you that I have been very hesitant to do this. And before I tell you why I have been hesitant, I'd like to introduce you to our guest for the day. We have with us my best friend and also favorite jerk, Arsh. Arsh is pursuing computer science at University of Texas Dallas and spends a tiny chunk of his free time complaining about the dating world with me. So I think there could be no better guest for this episode. Welcome, Arsh. Hi.
Hello.
So before introducing you, I was talking about how I wasn't very sure of doing this episode because dating is still a very sensitive topic in Indian homes because we still
Right.
live in very conservative families. And this is going to be the last question of this podcast. I'm going to leave this hanging here right now. But why do parents not like dating? So I've dropped a very heavy question here, and we're going to address this in the end of the podcast. But right now, let's start with a very simple, light question, which is what is your ideal date?
My ideal date, like a one-time thing.
Yeah, like your first date, like if you're going on a first date with someone, and how do you imagine a good first date to be like?
Okay. It should have another person because that's very important. I think that other person should be interesting enough to actually make a conversation with you. I think the most important thing in any first date is just to have an interesting conversation with them. Because if you can't do that, if you're just still awkward, that you're still unsure about what you want to say, when there's things you don't know about each other, you just want to keep hiding yourself and keep hiding stuff from the other person, it's not ideal. So of course you can't just go all out and just share everything you have ever done in your life with the other person on the first date. But I feel like if I want to like someone, or if they want to like me, I think it's imperative that we have an interesting conversation. So I don't really care where it is, like if it's in a restaurant, if it's a walk, if it's a movie or whatever. But as long as you have an interesting conversation, that's good.
Mm. So anything that keeps you with the date is interesting then.
Yeah, basically, like it should be engaging enough that there's a back and forth. There are no awkward pauses. There's no like, oh, did you know it rained today? There's nothing of that sort. It should be like, oh, we know each other and we're just sitting down for a meal and talking about stuff.
So you said we know each other, and I'll take my second question from there. Um, do you think it's important to know a person before you start dating? Like, do you think that relationships which start from a friendship, do they work better than maybe finding someone on an online dating app and then going on like 4 5 dates with them and deciding, yeah, this is a good person to be in a relationship with? What do you think works better?
There's no one answer to this question. I think you can have both, and both of them can end up incredibly well. I mean, of course, the Western world believes in being meeting strangers and then just going through the whole process and then falling in love and everything. But I feel like in back home in India, it's still very much that someone, or maybe a friend, or maybe an acquaintance, and then you somehow like them, or you're just really close, and you're like, maybe this is a good idea to take it to the next level. So of course, and
Yeah.
in that case, you have with the advantage of knowing that person already. You know all the bad things, all the good things, most of their quirks, and what they like, what they don't like. So it's easier to settle in. But in that, of course, you're risking a lot because relationships are usually temporary, while friendships are more permanent than relationships. Not to say that they're not temporary too, but yeah. So it feels if because when you somehow end up losing them, you lose two different versions of them: a friend
Hmm.
and your significant other. But in I guess the pro of not going with a friend is that you don't have any strings attached. You If you lose them, it's not too bad. And with strangers, I think it's more of an adventure. That this is a new person. You're starting from scratch. It's a blank canvas, and it's
Yeah.
up to you how you dictate the relationship.
Yeah, but also So, I think when you're starting a relationship, when you're already in a friendship and taking it to the next level, um, don't you think that some of the spark or like the magic of the first few months is already kind of gone or subdued because you already know that person quite well? I won't say you know that person entirely because you never can, but you know a lot about that person which you would probably spend like months finding out if if you were going on a date with a stranger. So does that make that process a little less fun or interesting?
No, I don't think so. Actually, it kind of depends. Again, I mean, all of these questions are subjective, but I
Mm-hmm.
personally think that no, you can still have that magic, you can still have that spark, because when you, I guess, transcend from a friendship to a relationship, it's different. You obviously start looking at the other person in a different light. They
Yep.
we the You behave differently with them, and
Mm-hmm.
there's just a different vibe about your relationship with them. So yeah, I think you can still make it happen.
Yeah.
um, but at the same time, of course, you're right. Sometimes it's like, oh, I already know that this person does this, so what's the like wow. I
Mm.
think that's just a good thing too, because you don't yeah, you don't have to jump through hoops to find out stuff. You just know stuff.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay. So the next question is, and all of my questions, like you've already pointed out, are subjective. So we're only discussing our opinions here. But what is a healthy relationship for you? Because I've realized healthy is very subjective. It might not mean the same thing for everybody. Most times they show obsessive girlfriends or boyfriends as nuts in TV shows and web series, but sometimes people like that kind of a significant other. So, is that still considered healthy if the other person likes it?
Okay, so healthy relationships are definitely one of the most subjective topics that you could have brought up today. Because it depends what the couple wants. Maybe they want to be clingy. Maybe they don't want to be clingy. Maybe one of them wants clingy, one of them doesn't. So that when that difference of opinion happens, it's automatically considered an unhealthy relationship. I
Okay.
personally think, don't be clingy, man. Like, come on, have a life of your own. It's okay to not be clingy. Like, it's okay if you don't want to be, like, be with each other all the time. As I mean, honestly, okay, I'm probably saying stuff that should happen like a year after a relationship, but I like that. So that's healthy for me.
Yes, and I know for a fact that you have a lot of boundaries when in a relationship or when in a
Yes.
friendship, in
Yeah,
basically any kind of
yeah.
any kind of relationship, and I mean romantic, non-romantic. You have 100 boundaries. Some of them don't even make any sense, but you have them and you like maintaining them. Do you think it's okay to do that in a relationship?
Mm, no, that's I'm single. um, yeah. So I don't think it was healthy. No, it was not. But the thing is, in my eyes, it was. But obviously, relationships are just this huge battle of who makes the biggest compromise. So and I did not make the biggest compromise, and that's why I lost. So yeah, you just have to see what the other one wants, and then you find like a middle ground so that you both are happy. And if healthy means that you have to talk every day and have a healthy conversation every single day, maybe that's healthy for you. For me, healthy is maybe talk every day, sure, but I just somehow don't have so many things to talk about on a daily basis. So but that somehow doesn't sit well with some people, so I'm just gonna yeah,
Yes,
so that's not.
it's not a very good habit to have if you're in a relationship. It definitely isn't.
Yeah.
And yeah, I'll so I don't know if you have heard of them, but I'll assume that you haven't. There's this thing called love languages, which are basically the different forms of love that people like. So every person has a specific kind of love language. It doesn't have to be one, it can be more than one, but like there is one dominant love language, which is how you would like to express love or how you
Mhm.
usually take in love. So
Right.
I think, and this is just me giving my 2 cents on this topic because I
Mm-hmm.
thought I should, but I think it is really important to understand what the love language of your significant other is. And when I first read about this, I thought it's a very stupid concept, but over time I've realized that it actually is a thing. I don't remember all of it entirely, so I won't go into a very long discussion about what they are, but they talk about how you can probably be more responsive to physical love, or your form of showing love is maybe doing the dishes and making food for your significant other. You might not verbally express it all the time. Maybe you like gifting or you like receiving gifts a lot, so that's your love language. So it's really important that you understand what the love language of your significant other is, and then try to work with it. And having given a lot of yarn there, I'll come back to our questions. So the next question is, do you think it is actually possible to fall in love at the age of like 16 or 20? And is this falling in love the same as the love you will find at 30 or 40? Like, because especially in India, what our parents usually tell us, at least mine did, that you're too young for this stuff, and you're too young to be in love with someone. And love is a very big word. So, is it a big word for me at this point? And also, like, how does one know that even at 30 or at 40 they have found love? They could still be too young for it. So I mean, this is not I haven't defined a clear question here, but I'm just saying, is it okay to say that I am in love at 20? Can we do that?
Yes and no. So it's a good question. I think because all of us, because I mean we are young, so we have gone through this phase there. Maybe you're too young to do this, or maybe you're too young to be so serious about this. Um, and that's true. Maybe we are, maybe we are not, because okay, things change.
Hmm.
Life happens.
Yeah.
So we can be in love at 18
Mm-hmm.
with someone, like be like, oh yeah, this person is the one for me. But then next year you might just move away for whatever reason, and then be like, yeah, she was nice, but that's it for now. And then you're
Mm-hmm.
not in love. So I think the only difference between a 30-year-old and a 20-year-old being in love is that it's not how much they love someone, it's about how volatile they are in their lives. Because when you're 30, you're usually settled. If not settled, you're definitely, you're mellowed down with life. You're like, okay, whatever I'm doing is good. I'm ready to like settle with one person. But when you're 18, you might have that mentality. You might think that you have that mentality, but there's a very good chance that life doesn't, go that way. So like this happens a lot. That in high school, people, date and like get really close, or fall in love for that matter. But then because then they have to go to college and specifically now because people just move to so many different countries for college at 18. So things just change. Some people keep going, like they just keep doing long distance. Some people don't. Like I personally thought long distance would have been a disaster. So like, you know what? Maybe no. Like I can. I'm 20. Actually, no. I was 18 at that point. I'm 18. I can just find someone else if I want to. So yeah, I think that's the only difference. Of course, the amount of love you have for someone may not be different, but the volatility of life is different.
Yes, I absolutely agree with that. And I follow this influencer who married the love of her life. And they've been dating for like 12 years now, and they started dating when she was 17. So,
Hmm.
and it just blew me away how they did that. But something that she keeps on saying in her videos is that we grew together. Like, so if you are not growing together, or are not growing by the same amount, it won't work out. So, well said. And do you think that, do you believe in the concept of a soulmate? Like, do you think there is this one person who is meant for you and you will probably find them in your lifetime and things will work out? Do you believe in that? Are you a romantic?
That's a very heavy question. I don't know. I haven't thought about it in a long, long time.
Hmm.
I feel like when you're in a good relationship, you're like, oh yeah, this is my soulmate. But when you're not in one, you're like, huh, there's nobody out there for me. Tanhai. So yeah, right now I'm in the Tanhai phase because I'm like, yeah, I don't see any prospect. So yeah, I don't. Yeah, soulmates is again, it depends on what stage of life you are in.
Okay. I don't believe in the concept of soulmates. I don't believe in the concept of soulmates at all. Because
Okay, let's take a scenario. So in a scenario where God makes soulmates, that like he earmarks people like this exhibit A will meet with
hmm,
this exhibit D in the future. Now he's
okay.
like, yeah, these guys should be soulmates in the future. But there are so many people in the world, there's so many different places. You can't even fathom how many people there are. And we try to look for people just in our own neighborhood, like in our environment. Like, okay, maybe you will go to three stages of different level of friends. That's it. You won't go more than that. And I think it's unreasonable to think that you will find your best soulmate in that small circle.
No, but that's the
Um,
point. I don't
yeah,
think that God made Exhibit A and Exhibit D. I think what God did was that He made Exhibit A and then He made Exhibit B, C, D, E. And then to each of these exhibits, He gave certain qualities and certain things that could help them vibe with Exhibit A. So, what I believe in is the power of vibing with someone. I think you can vibe with a lot of people over the course of your lifetime, and maybe one of those vibes will actually work out in the long run if you guys figure out compromise and life and love together. And maybe it won't, because it's again just a vibe. So I think there are a lot of people out there who you can vibe with, but not like just one single person who's a soulmate, because I don't think there could ever be one person who's equipped with every quality.
yeah,
So
definitely, yeah. I mean, there's no perfect one for you. You
mhm.
just have to find someone tolerable enough to love them.
Tolerable enough. You have made this sound so bad.
No. Okay, it's true. Okay, I know this is like okay, maybe people don't agree with me, but the the sheer fact of life is that when you're with someone for 20, 30 years, I'm sure most of your audience is not, because we're not even 30 yet. So when
Yep.
you're with someone for 20, 30 years, you have no idea what people have gone through to be okay, even just being in the same
Yeah,
room with someone for 20, 30 years can get annoying. So
definitely.
you
Yeah.
have to find someone you can appropriately just sit. That's all you need. Just have someone you can enjoy, or not even enjoy. You can just be content with just sitting with them. That's all you need.
Hmm. Yeah, you've actually touched upon a very important topic, and this is something we might receive flack for. But I keep thinking about this question about how it's really boring after a point staying with the same person for 30, 40 years. Like beyond, you can talk constantly for 2 years. You can have interesting dates, but then after you hit the 2 year point, it it definitely won't be like that first 3, 4 months ever again. It just isn't possible to bring back the thrill of the start of a new relationship. So and then we're just talking about 2, 3 years here, and then you have to stretch it out to 30, 40 years. People, our grandparents have lived together for 50 years. And it gets boring and it gets tiring, and also I think it's very unfair to expect any person to love for that long. I'm not to say that that our parents, our grandparents haven't loved each other for those many years, but what I'm trying to say here is that the expression of love will start dying after a point. So do you think that in such a situation, in in such a case, monogamy is a good idea? Like should the world be open to polygamy? Like a lot of people already are, but the world in general, should polygamy be a thing?
Hmm. Uh, you have weird questions. No, no. I mean, okay, see, okay, just from a scientific point of view, polygamy has a lot of increases your chance of STD, so don't do it because STDs are bad.
Yeah.
But just from like a non-physical perspective,
Yeah.
no, I don't think we are not there yet as a society, specifically Indian society. We're definitely not there yet.
Mm.
Maybe polygamy is the way of life 200 years, 300 years from now. Today is not, and I
Mm.
only care about today, so I'm gonna say no, don't do it.
Okay. Okay, so I think we just have like two, three questions more. The next question is very straightforward. Do you think that we can love a person uh, that we absolutely committed to, and like we know that this is the one, but do you think we can love that person for every second of every minute of every hour? Is it possible to love anybody for every existing moment?
Okay, so you can love someone overall.
Yeah.
Like you love your mom, you love your dad,
Yeah.
you.
Mm.
Now that's a fact.
Mm.
You love them, but
Yeah.
do you enjoy their presence, or are you in love with them in every second of the every minute you spend with them? No, because that's not, again, life is volatile.
Mm.
Yeah, it's like it depends on the situation. Now, what determines how much you can love them overall is the what really breaks or makes your relationship is whether your overall love is greater than these small incidents.
Mm-hmm.
Whether these small incidents added up can make your overall love break or not. So I'm probably making it sound like a really stupid math problem, but that's just how it is.
No,
कि
it makes sense.
yeah, you cannot love someone for every single minute, but at the
Mm.
same time, just a general vibe. Like I think that's what we're trying to get at. That
Yeah,
mm,
it's like saying that you love a person but you don't like that person for every second. Like you will always love that person because that's a feeling
yeah,
which is like
yeah, that
a
makes sense.
overarching thing. But then to like a person, like I like him when he gives me a gift, but I don't like him when he's angry at me or fighting with me. So you can not like a person even while loving that person. If I've understood that correctly.
Correct. Yeah, that makes
Yes.
sense.
So the next question is a little personal, and yeah, I'll just ask it. What are some mistakes that you have made in your relationship, or that you have observed people making in their relationships?
Personally, I think was communication,
Yeah,
and
definitely.
that's a big cliche, right? Oh, you should definitely talk
No,
to
no,
each
it's
other
not
so
a
that makes you
cliche in your
happy.
case.
It's it's true. You're
Yeah,
supposed to do all of that.
yeah.
You're supposed to communicate properly, talk
Mm,
properly, make sure that the other person knows what you're thinking, make sure the person tells you what they're thinking, and it's not. I'm not advocating for complete transparency, but at the
mm,
same time, I'm definitely advocating for just basic communication. I
yeah,
didn't do it because I don't like it. I will still not do it. I will still make the
yeah,
same mistake.
yeah.
But if Bhavya's audience is so inclined to make their relationships work, go do it.
Yeah, don't be like Arjdeep and properly communicate in your relationship, but also don't over communicate because that just makes it boring. So your mistake has been that you have been on the distant side, and it would have worked
Yeah,
better if you had come a little closer and communicated a little more.
yeah. And I think the other mistake that I particularly made was that you take people for granted. Because when you're with
Mm,
them for like more than like 6 7 months and you're
yeah.
consistently talking to them, you're with them, you start taking people for granted and you're like, yeah, kahan jayegi, but chali jayegi. uh, if you don't maintain a certain level of intimacy, certain level of affection, even if you might have that affection in your heart, and you're like, yeah, I love this person so much, but if you
Yeah.
don't show it, there's a good chance it'll go away. Now, if you're married, you're probably gonna stick it out. But when you're in just a like a 18-year-old relationship, no, I mean, okay, no. What I mean is when your relationship as an 18-year-old,
Yeah.
um, they'll be like, yeah, fuck this, I have better choices. So yeah,
Yeah. Yeah, it's really important to keep the spark alive. Like you just said, it's really important to keep showing your affection from time to time, even if it's been like 2 years, 3 years, because I honestly think that's the thing that keeps the relationship going. Because there definitely are points in a relationship where you'll question if whatever you're doing is right, and if you're still having fun in the relationship. And at these points, the the small gestures that you or your significant other makes will matter a lot, because these are the things that you'll go back to, and you'll be like, huh, yeah, this was nice, this was good, I think we can still keep it going. So, a very, very good point made here by Arshdeep. And okay, so this is our last question. This is the first question I asked when we started the podcast, and I think it's a good place to end our podcast at. The question is that I live in a very Indian setup, and you have lived in a very Indian setup for at least 18 years of your life, and
Hmm.
dating is still a big taboo here, or at least if not a taboo, we still expect you to not talk about it even if we are dating. So what do you think? What is your what is your take on telling your parents about your relationship if you're like 18, 19, or if you're in your young adult stage, if you're in your 20s, should you tell them that you are dating and that you like a certain person and that.
Yeah, okay. So the this can be looked at from a lot of different perspectives.
Mm-hmm.
So first is of the parent. The parents, no matter who they are, they want the best for the kid, right? Like no matter how conservative or progressive they are, they want to
Hmm.
be, they want the kid to be happy
Yeah.
and not hurt. Now, it's just a fact that most people try to overlook for when it comes to relationships, that they're like that they totally forget that this will most likely end and
In
you will
hurt.
get hurt,
Yeah.
or if you are not the one getting hurt, you're hurting someone else. And that's just how it is. That's just how relationships work usually. Of course, you can always be amicable about it, and but anyway, taking the generic scenario, so they don't want that to happen to a very young kid of mere 16, 17, 18 years. Now
Hmm.
to us it might feel like, oh, we're done, we're like on the we're on the end of being teenagers, right? Like we're towards the last stretch, so we are definitely grown up enough to do this.
Yeah.
Probably you are. Maybe you are more mature than your counterparts, and then that's why you're doing better in a relationship, or maybe you're not. But so I think that's where the parents try to be like, hey, just be careful, don't hurt yourself for no reason. And
Yeah.
that's why some parents then take a very drastic approach to this. Like they're like, yeah, you if you date, we will kill you, because if we don't kill you, someone else will. So
Yes, yes, I've seen that.
um yeah, so I think that's their main goal. Of course, some families
Distraction.
specifically, yeah, family specifically in India focus on the distraction part. That,
Yeah.
oh, if you get into a relationship with someone, you will lose your focus on studying or whatever you're trying to do. Most likely studying, because that's what Indians do.
Yeah.
But and I think the last thing that I think that I like to bring up is that some parents are just against it because of cultural
Yeah.
reasons,
Mm-hmm.
cultural and religious reasons, that they think it's absolutely wrong
Hmm.
to date someone or be with someone before a certain age,
Hmm.
specifically when it's an unmarried thing.
Yeah.
And that's totally fine. I personally don't agree with that, but
Yeah.
that's probably because I was born in 2000 and not 1980. So
Yes.
yeah, and that's totally fine. I understand where they're coming from, and I just have a different opinion. That's all.
Yeah.
But I'm not saying it's wrong. It's
Yeah.
just different.
Mm-hmm.
And yeah, so I think, but circling back to your question,
Yeah.
that whether you should tell parents or not, if you are open enough, it might go either way. Honestly, it depends on
Yeah.
who your parents are.
Yes.
Maybe it's you have a little of a distant relationship, like a more of a strict relationship with your parents, and you tell them, they will probably beat you up. But if you're chill with them and you can talk to them like friends, tell them.
And also with
Right.
about the distraction thing, because I think that is the major concern for most parents in India, at least in my circles, where everybody just wants their children to be focusing on the right things, and they think that relationships can be very distracting. And for anybody who's planning to go into a relationship, especially if you're at a stage in your life where other very important things are coming up and you don't want to be distracted, and this is something that you're considering, something very important to think about is that if you will be able to like find the distinction between time which should be like time well spent and time overspent in a relationship. You
Mhm.
should not be spending too
Yeah.
much time on it. And on the other hand, if you're trying to pursue something, or you're very focused and there's only one thing you see and you want to get there, it can actually be a good thing to be with someone who can sometimes bring you back to the reality, and sometimes bring you back to your roots, if that
Yeah.
makes
No,
sense.
that makes sense. Yeah,
Yeah.
yeah, that definitely. Yeah, yeah, I think what you're trying to get at is that is what would have been my next point, that if you're with someone who's demanding your time, especially when you have a different priority in life,
Hmm.
leave them.
Yeah,
They're not good for you.
definitely.
Okay, you have to respect your other person's different priority. Look, okay, it's not you are in a relationship doesn't mean that that's all you do in life. Okay,
Yes.
you have to so go to school, college, job, family,
Yes.
other hobbies,
Mm-hmm.
friends, whatever. There's so many different things in life, right?
Mm-hmm.
And but as important as a relationship is, doesn't automatically give it the first place in your priority list.
Yes, exactly. And yeah, I think that brings us to the end of this episode. I would first like to thank with a lot of love my best friend for agreeing to come on for this episode. It was a task bringing him on and having him talk about all this, because he does not like to talk, as you guys must have already figured out. So thank you, Arsh, for being here.
Definitely, it's my pleasure. And
Is it?
yeah, uh,
Is it?
I will text you. But no, this was nice. It was good to talk about this stuff because I don't usually bring this stuff up with most people.
And a lot of people, whoever's listening to this, haven't seen your face, but they've heard your voice, and your voice is really nice. So you might get a lot of DMs after this.
Yeah, I'm sure they can find my face and be like, yeah, you know what, it's okay.
And yeah, so I think we'll end our episode here. Please follow my Instagram. All of my links are in my Instagram bio. And also, I have a new website now which has everything in it. You can go leave your feedback there. You can listen to all the other episodes there. You can access all my other social media links. So please, please, please check it out. Yeah, I think that's it for today. Bye bye.